I know you've heard me vent a lot about the awkward, creepy, and sometimes monotonous interactions that I have with men and their apparent inability to read the room. But I want you guys to know that I know I'm not perfect either. Sometimes these dates going sideways is my fault. LOL. Sometimes, says the only common denominator in all of these stories. But yes, sometimes I'm the asshole who screws it up. Maybe not so much an asshole as just a guarded, distrustful woman who's been hurt badly and as a result has a somewhat fatalistic attitude towards men despite my otherwise very positive and cheerful demeanor. Hi, I'm Kelly Shanley, and this is For Love or Peanut Butter, a true life dating podcast in which a seemingly eligible yet perpetually single woman, that's me, finally delves into the why and the how she has remained single into her mid-30s. And she changes her life forever. The Dream Guy and the Asshole. How to Lose a Guy in 3 Dates. Despite spending the early 2010s endlessly lamenting that the only men left in LA, if you could even call them that, were unemployed actors, or quote-unquote entrepreneurs.
Like Bachman, I'm an entrepreneur.
Who only had the emotional bandwidth to be friends with benefits, a casual hookup, or any arrangement that we would now call a situationship, 2013 me wasn't remotely ready for a mature man anyway. She may have talked a big game, but as soon as she went out on a few dates with a handsome chiropractor who treated her with kindness, took things slow physically, and wanted to introduce her to his friends,
you believe this guy?
She slinked away from this outlandishly respectful treatment, citing lack of chemistry, which is precisely the same level of maturity and delusion I brought into the brief dalliance I'm going to tell you about now. I met Sam on Plenty of Fish, one of the OG dating websites back before they were even apps. And let me tell you, this guy was a catch, pun intended. We had a great first date at a wine bar where we stayed for 4.5 hours. Plenty of time for me to stare at his Chris Evans-like face while daintily brushing my chin to assure I didn't have food all over mine. We shared appetizers and drank Pinot and talked about our jobs, our families, living in LA, comedy, traveling, and everything in between. He was not a comedian, bonus points, but he did love going to comedy shows, so we made a pact to go see one together. After being cued into the passing of time by the announcement of last call, Sam paid for our bill, walked me to my car like a gentleman, and hugged me goodnight. No kiss, but a tight hug and a sweet, sincere farewell with a request to see me again. Aww. I felt slightly confused, though. I had a wonderful time. This guy had his shit together, was a total smoke show, yet I didn't have any butterflies flitting about in my wine-filled belly. Still, I knew I wanted to go out with him again. I wasn't a complete idiot. Yet. We made plans to go for a hike at Runyon Canyon and then grab lunch. The hike went well, which is lucky because if I'm being honest, hikes can be awkward. See my previous episode, The Hobbyist Geologist. Even if you go with someone you know really well, there are a lot of factors that determine whether or not a hike is a success. Sweat, fitness level, interrupting his story to say, "Whoa, look at that tree," one too many times.
Nice to meet you. I'm Tree Hugger.
But the hike went well. Beautiful day, consistent conversation, mutual arboreal enthusiasm.
Nice!
However, no affectionate moves were made, and he seemed a little nervous. It felt like more of a friend hang than a romantic date. No hand-holding, despite the backs of our knuckles swaying to and fro in each other's orbit for 45 minutes. No flirtatious comments about how my butt looked in my coordinated athleisure wear. No extended hand to help me balance over a tricky part of the trail. So what if we were on a paved fire road? It's possible I was overanalyzing, but onward. After the hike, we went to Bossa Nova for lunch. Once again, delicious food, great conversation, good times all around. We sure were getting good at talking to each other. He walked me to my car again, and this time, drum roll please, he gave me a kiss.
Honey, hug me.
A wholesome tongue-free kiss, slightly uncertain, like he was trying it for the first time, but still, it was a kiss. It caught me a little off guard since I had been getting friend vibes from him for most of the date, but I was glad he kissed me. Sadly, still no butterflies. Sam and I went out on one more date, an improv show at the Groundlings Theater on Melrose, followed by drinks at a nearby bar. But when I greeted Sam in the lobby, something was off. He seemed tense. I wasn't sure if he was worried about something or if he was just nervous around me, but whatever it was, it put me on edge.
You good, bro?
The show started and it was fantastic. Part sketch, part improv, all hilarious. The cast was so talented and I was having the best time. Except for one thing. I felt like Sam would check to see that I was laughing before he would laugh. It was subtle, but I felt it. I would laugh, and then a beat later, he would too. He never laughed first, or at anything that I didn't laugh at. Offensive? Not really. Mildly annoying for no apparent reason? Yes. Once I noticed it, I couldn't unnotice it.
That's not even a word.
I know this is ridiculous, but it drove me fucking crazy. During this show, I realized that despite our good conversation and Sam being a really amazing guy, we had not laughed much together. And now that we were in a setting that all but required laughing, he would only laugh after I decided something was funny and laughed first. Did he not know what he found funny? Did he not have a sense of humor? Or was he being incredibly considerate and supporting me in his own weird little way by laughing at everything I found funny and not laughing first just in case something offended me? I guess we'll never know since I let it get into my head and give me anxiety for no reason. During the first half of the show, my best friend kept texting me. She was hanging out with her situationship dude and venting about him talking about other women to her.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
She was upset enough that I felt like I had to respond to her as soon as intermission started. I told Sam I had to pee and made a beeline for the restroom. It turned out my friend was fine. So naturally, I started telling her about the weird vibes I was getting from Sam. She told me to leave after the show if I didn't want to get drinks with him. No big deal. That felt so rude, but I told her I would think about it. After intermission, things only got worse. I tried to hold Sam's hand and lean towards him to let him know that I was into him and maybe ease his nerves. But he was still so tense and nervous, and I couldn't seem to unnervous him.
That's also a made-up word.
It was starting to make me nervous, like he had osmosized his anxiety to me via our mutually sweaty palms. Once the show ended, I couldn't wait to get out of there. But we had drinks planned. So what did I do? Did I handle it with grace and directness and simply tell him that I wasn't up for drinks anymore and wanted to go home? Oh, no. No. I did not have the communication skills to say straight to a kind man's face that I did not want to hang out with him further. That felt confrontational and cruel. So instead, I lied. Badly. Like really, really badly. We walked out of the theater and Sam asked me where I wanted to grab a drink. I froze. Instead of just saying, I'm pretty tired, I think I'm going to call it a night. This is what came out of my mouth. Oh, I don't know if you noticed my roommate was texting me a lot during the show. So she was on a date with this guy, this awful guy, and apparently he ditched her in the valley. Can you believe that? And now I have to go pick her up because she's stranded and she doesn't have a car, and like taxis cost like $1,000 because we live in the middle of the city, and like I don't even know, she's all by herself and I just have to go get her, and like you know how bad the valley can be. And like, in my defense, this was pre-Uber. Remember that? Sam just stared at me incredulously. Is this seriously happening right now? I imagine he was thinking. Like any terrible liar, I piled on more details, constructing a story around this idiot who strung my friend along for years, took her out on a date, picked a fight, then left her in the Circus Liquor parking lot just like that scene from Clueless. She could be held up at gunpoint! I must go save her! I could picture it happening, so why not Sam? Oh yeah, because I was completely full of shit. Sam didn't interrupt me, call me out, or question the validity of my clearly fabricated excuse. He just waited for me to stop rambling. Well, he said, I hope your friend is okay. Like the fucking class act that he was, and surely still is. I thanked him sheepishly, a knot of guilt already twisting in my gut like a cheesy gordita crunch. There was no hug, no goodbye, no let's do this again. He just turned and walked away, leaving me alone on the sidewalk, instantly and overwhelmingly regretting my poor choices. I have never felt smaller in my entire life. Until a few weeks later. I went to Upright Citizens Brigade to catch another improv show.
Boo, you whore.
I know. I was going through a phase, okay? When it was over and I filed out with my fellow audience members, the audience for the next show filed in. We were all shifting back and forth, bumping into each other like a herd of cattle, when suddenly I was shoulder to shoulder, well, bicep really, since he's 6'2", with guess who? Class act, crazy handsome, watched me lie like a rug, Sam.
I mean, isn't that just kick you in the crotch, spit on your neck, fantastic?
I froze. Since somehow remembered how to talk and squeaked out a quick, "Oh, hi, Sam." He could have scoffed at me or called me a bitch or a liar.
Dumbass.
Or ignored me, any number of things. But you know what he did?
This fucking guy.
He said hello back. He smiled at me. He was kind, respectful, and did not throw anything in my face. We had a very brief exchange, and then he walked away to find his seat. I have never regretted my actions more than I did in that moment. It was the perfect fuck you, without him having to say it. And I really don't think he even meant it that way. He was just a nice, decent guy. So naturally, I had to ruin it. In retrospect, it's possible that I may have overreacted.
You think?
Maybe he was a little nervous on our date. And maybe he was just checking to see that I was having a good time. Maybe he just liked the way I laughed, or the fact that I laughed out loud. And maybe I took this and spun it into some weird abstract reason not to go out with him anymore because I could see that he was fond of me and I just wasn't ready. I hadn't done the work on myself yet to be with a man like that. So I hid behind my judgments and made it about him being uncool.
Lame. So lame.
Wherever Sam is now, I hope he got scooped up by a sensible woman who's as gorgeous as Margot Robbie, expresses her emotions like Dr. Ruth, R.I.P., and ran towards a great catch, rather than releasing him into the wilds by being an immature asshole like me. And that, my friends, is how you lose a guy in 3 dates. I'm Kelly Shanley, and this is For Love or Peanut Butter. For Love or Peanut Butter is created, written, and performed by me, Kelly Shanley. Produced and edited by Z. Rodriguez-Thomas for Mind Jam Media. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and leave us a glowing review. If you can't wait to hear the next one, check out the column of the same name on Medium. Link in show notes. And be sure to follow me on social media. On Instagram and TikTok, you can find me at Kelly A. Shanley. On YouTube, Facebook, and Medium, at Kelly Shanley. Thanks so much for listening, and stay crunchy out there. Or smooth.
Osmocized?
Osmosized. It's a made up word.
Okay.
It's the past tense of osmosis, but osmosis apparently is only a noun, not a verb. So there is no past tense of. But it's a Greg Shanleyism, and I'm keeping it.
I was about to say, now you need to keep this in the episode. There you go. All right.